want to thank everybody who's been with me, my Xbox clan.
When Kobe's going back to play Madison Square Garden, and he's like, hey, hook me up with dinner with Heath Ledger.
Like Russell Westbrook, that was a great feat the other day. I couldn't even tweet it out.
It's Coach Frank Vogel here, full of enthusiasm and positive energy.
Well, first of all, you don't smoke peyote.
And there was a couple games where I was at a hookah lounge. That's the truth. I wasn't smoking hookah, but I was there.
There was a time when the Israelites were wandering in the desert, and all of a sudden, bread came down from heaven. That's kind of what today feels like to have KCP join.
Welcome back to Bulls vs. Blazers. You can find us, as always, on Apple, Spotify, Google, anywhere else you can find podcasts. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review, all of that. Follow us on social media at Bulls v. Blazers. Check us out on Patreon at Bulls v. Blazers. $3 a month gets you an extra episode per week.
Double the content.
And I am Sean Highkin. With me, as always, Erik Gundersen. We are going to wrap up the bubble.
We're happy. Oh, God.
We've got our 10 favorite moments each written down from the bubble. We don't know what each other's lists are. There might be some overlap, but we're going to be surprised by it. But, we got a couple things we got to hit up at the top. First of all, a very heartfelt shout out to Daryl Morey's family.
Yes. He's probably leaving basketball, but maybe not. I don't know. But he's gone. He left the Houston Rockets, the end of an era. The guy who created the Sloan Conference culture that we have in the NBA front office community is out of here. And the same week that Billy Beane leaves the Oakland A's.
I have to just take myself a little victory lap here because I called this as soon as the China thing happened last year. Tillman could not fire him last year because the optics of it would just be, they caved and they just did what China wanted and fired Daryl Morey. But as soon as they got to the point where he could, reasonably say, we just, because of the disappointing playoff exit, it's just time to go in another direction. And they said that Daryl stepped down by his own choice, just sort of to save face, is what I think happened. And that this idea that he wants to explore opportunities outside of basketball, I think is cover for the fact that he's never going to get another GM job because of the China stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he can definitely be a part of a organization in the way that in baseball, how the Los Angeles Dodgers have a bunch of decorated former general managers all working together. I think he could be part of a consortium situation, but he's never going to be the guy leading an NBA team ever again, as long as, forever. As long as what? China's never going to lose interest in the NBA, and it's just, those dollars count. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. And he's going to be involved in basketball somewhere, though. I think. I know that he's been dabbling in soccer things because that's the cool toy that analytics really hasn't gotten their teeth into as much.
Yeah.
But
did you see the New York Times interview?
No, I did not. What is there a new one or what?
Yeah. So Sopan Deb from the New York Times got Daryl and Tillman Fertitta together on the phone.
Oh, wow.
And they hung up on him when he asked about China.
Well, there you go. He can't. Well, yeah, there you go. That's the paradigm.
I'm just gonna read this to you. This is from the story. In an interview, Morey and Fertitta declined to answer questions about the China uproar and abruptly ended the interview after receiving questions about it. Morey did say the decision to leave Houston was his own. Fertitta said their relationship was not affected by the Hong Kong tweet. We've never had a cross-word over it, he said. Which, considering he is on record, joking with Trump about how his GM cost him a lot of money with that tweet, I somehow don't think that he and Daryl never got into it about.
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and say that both of them, this is the thing that I think a lot of NBA fans don't realize that can sometimes happen that you and I will realize is being that we have to ask these people questions and listen to their answers a lot, and we really pay attention to that stuff.
This is where we always are keeping our third eye open on Bulls vs. Blazers. We're putting you guys up on game here.
Right, exactly. And it's like people can say things, but it doesn't mean anything when they talk to us. You know what I mean? Especially when the mics are on and the lights are red, whether it's a camera or a recorder. Like, they know what the fuck is going on. They're not idiots. And the fact that they both hung up should tell you everything that you need to know when they both hung up when it was an on-the-record conversation.
Right.
Because nothing in the NBA gets done, or nobody in the NBA talks on the record about anything. And this is just part of that. And it's just so happens to be a geopolitical football for a lot of people.
And also, they agreed to do an on-the-record interview with the New York Times, which is a pretty major outlet. They didn't, maybe the most major outlet in the country. They didn't have to agree to do that interview. What did they think was going to, especially someone like Sopan, who actually, I think, did the best job out of anybody of covering that China controversy when it happened, because he used to cover politics before he got onto the NBA beat. What did they think he wasn't going to ask about it? Did they agree to do the interview thinking that they were just going to get to do damage control about, oh no, we still have a great relationship? Like, did they think he wasn't going to ask about that? No, you have to ask about that because it's your job to ask about that. And then they had to know that was coming, and so they had to at least have like a canned answer ready to go instead of just hanging up on him. That's just really telling.
But I mean, yeah, they just don't have that, and they also just don't think that far ahead. I feel like that's just indicative of how Tillman does business, is he's going until he gets the next deal. Like, that's how it is. And it's like, you know, I'm sure Morey agreed to it in terms of being like trying to end on good terms.
Yeah.
But it just, there was no way for him to really get out of there unscathed. And honestly, he got out of there as pretty much unscathed as he could possibly get. Like, if other teams in the NBA want to hire him as some other kind of front office figure, other than being like literally in charge of everything, I think that he can basically have any job that he wants in that facet. And also, like, he can have a job anywhere. But the thing about soccer that I want to reel in a little bit is that China's a massive market for soccer too. like it's not like Daryl Morey's going to be able to go to like Manchester United one day and like help them revive their team, and then all of a sudden people are like, oh wait, the guy that, you know, is tweeting free Hong Kong is running Manchester United. Like, the sports world is only so big and has only so many poles, you know what I mean? And
right.
Like, China is one of those poles in pretty much every sport, especially soccer and basketball, which are the two most popular sports in the world.
So there's a couple of directions I want to go with this Rockets thing before we move on. First of all, like, what is your overall takeaway and just impression of the Daryl Morey era in Houston?
I thought he was good. Yeah. I thought he was good. I thought he was a really good GM. He made them competitive without ever really bottoming out.
Yeah.
Like even when they were bad, quote unquote, they were like a 10th seed in the West.
So he was the GM for 13 years. They made the playoffs in 10 of those years. And the 3 years that they missed were 09-10, 10-11, and 11-12. And those were the 3 years. So 09-10 was the year after Yao had his broken foot in the playoffs and he missed the whole year. 10-11 was the year Yao came back and then like 5 games into the season broke his foot again and had to retire. And then the year after that was the year before they did the Harden trade. So basically they missed the playoffs when their generational talent starting Hall of Fame starting center had a career-ending foot injury. And other than that, they were in the playoffs every year. And I mean, the thing that I will just give Daryl a lot of credit for is every single move that he made was always to try to get better. Like, he didn't do that. And as much as people, I know that Sam Hinkie was a disciple of Daryl, like he was his guy before he took the Sixers job. And so those two kind of get lumped in a lot. Daryl never did the process thing. Daryl never tried to tank. Daryl never, maybe this was Les Alexander, their former owner, never just wanting to bottom out. But the thing I just always respect about Daryl is he always tried to be competitive. He made good creative salary cap moves and did kind of weird stuff with draft pick protections to try to win trades and collect assets and stuff, but he just kind of showed you can do the asset collection aspect of like this new school version of being a GM without just going full Sam Hinkie and just trying to tank and just be as terrible as possible. Every year they tried to be good. And especially the last few years when the Warriors were basically the inevitable team in the West every year, and every other team kind of tried to take a step back. Daryl Morey was like, you know what? No, I want to try to beat the Warriors. I'm going to trade for Chris Paul to pair with James Harden. We're going to go all in. We're going to try to do it. And as somebody who, like, while I understand logically what the reasoning behind something like the process is, I respect it more when GMs try to actually build a competitive team. And Daryl did that every single year. And so he has a lot of respect from me for that.
Yeah, I mean, back before Yao broke his foot, there was the Lakers and the Spurs and the Mavs all in the West, and it, like, you could have been like, all right, forget it. Like, but also, like, he was just like, you know what? No, we're gonna get all these guys together. I'm gonna trade Steve Francis and Cuttino Mobley for Tracy McGrady and pair him with Yao Ming, and we're gonna do this. And Yao he brought in Ron Artest after a lot of people were like, out on Ron Artest for all the character reasons. And they brought him in to be like the missing piece. And he found Aaron Brooks in the draft, and he
brought in Shane Battier as like an undervalued guy who went on to become a valuable role player.
And he was like, Shane Battier was like Michael Lewis fucking wrote an article about Shane Battier for the New York Times, like
called the No Stats All-Star.
Right, exactly. Like, he invented like this whole, like, Alex Caruso.
Yeah.
Like, Alex Caruso is like a Shane Battier type of player, whereas like 10 years ago we may not have appreciated all that Alex Caruso does for a team, but he gets in there, he does all these extra things, and he ends up with like 2 points, 1 rebound, and 1 assist in the box score and a plus 27. Like, and it's like, those are the type of guys that, like, because of the movement that Morey was driving, not only in basketball, but across sports, like, we have better tools to appreciate guys like Alex Caruso. And I thought he was a great GM. I thought he always made good moves in the draft. He got guys that I think he knew not only were talented players, but also could get other teams to be attracted to them. And he knew how to read the market and to create little, wrinkles in the market to make something happen for his team. And and he was able to build off of his things. Like the fact that he had James Harden for the last, since 2012, basically 8 years, he's been able to have like 3 different iterations of a contender with James Harden. It was Dwight, then they added CP. This year they had Westbrook and Robert Covington, and it didn't really work out, and they weren't really that good, but like he tried multiple different ways to make it work. And like, that's all you want really from the guy that runs your team. And unfortunately, that's a lot to ask, it seems like, in today's NBA, where pretty much, I'm not going to put a percentage on it, but a lot of at least fans have the perception that their GM is a yes man for the owner and is only there to, execute the financial whims of the owner, as opposed to deliver a winner for the market and the fans and all that.
Now, the one other part of this that now we want to get to is we're starting the dialogue about trading James Harden. I started the dialogue today on BR in a column that I wrote. We sort of started it when they got eliminated from the playoffs, but
yes,
I think that's the move. I think you see what you can get for Harden and you just completely blow it up and start over. Raphael Stone, who I don't really know a lot about, but he's been with the organization for a while, that Woj was reporting that he's going to be elevated to be the new GM. So Tillman's kind of going in-house. And now, you see the way their coaching search is shaking out. I know that Jeff Van Gundy has sort of been linked to it. I don't think that's really going to happen. Ty Lue was somebody they were going after. Obviously, Ty Lue took the Clippers job today. We're going to get to that in a second. But now, outside of JVG, You're looking at a lot of Steven Silas was reported tonight as getting a second interview. I know Wes Unseld Jr. has been linked to the job. Jamal Mosley from Dallas has been linked to the job. Sam Cassell.
I was going to say John Lucas is the one that's really interesting to me because he has mostly like cut his teeth as like a life skills coach,
right? As like when somebody in the NBA has a drug problem, they go to John Lucas to get right.
Right. And it's like, you know, like, I don't know, like the last time John Lucas was a coach was like 1985 or something. He hasn't been a coach in the league. I'm looking this up right now. Like, I'm trying to look up the last time he was a head coach was 2003. For the Cavaliers. After being a coach for the Spurs for a couple of years, the Sixers for a couple of years. He was an assistant with the Denver Nuggets and then with the Cavs from 01 to 03. And then from 2016 to the present, he has been a player development coach. And also on the side, like, you know, as you said, Ty Lawson, a lot of other guys would go to him when they were having substance abuse issues, basically. And it was just like, that was their team. And like, I just don't know, like, as much as I respect John Lucas for what he's done with his life and who he is as a figure in the NBA, I don't like, is he really the right guy to be the head? Like, if he's the head coach, to me, that means they're going to bring in a bunch of kids, you know?
Well, like, I mean, I think pretty much any of those guys that we're talking about, except for Jeff Van Gundy. I mean, I think the way this shakes out, like, they had been going after Ty Lue. We can obviously take Ty Lue off the table now. But Ty Lue would be in the same category as Jeff Van Gundy, where he's a big name that costs money, if that's who you were going to bring in. If they hire Jeff Van Gundy, if that's who they ultimately go with, and he's still in the mix as of right now, you know, the news cycle moves so fast, and by the time this comes out, they could have already hired a coach, and this will be out of date. But as of right now, Jeff Van Gundy is still in the mix. Jeff Van Gundy is not leaving his job at ESPN to get back into coaching to coach a rebuild. So if they hire him, then that will tell me they're going to just run this back with Harden and Westbrook, and they're going to try to contend again. But if they hire, you know, Jamal Mosley or Wes Unseld or one of these kind of up-and-coming assistants, which, you know, the code for that is Tillman Fertitta doesn't want to pay a big-name head coach, which is why I'm skeptical that the Van Gundy thing is going to happen. That will then tell me that, plus also, like, in that same interview that same thing, that televised thing with Trump where he was, like, joking about Daryl's tweet, he also made a joke about paying Harden and Westbrook what he's paying them. Right. I think Tillman is trying to cut costs, so I wouldn't be surprised at all if they hire one of these younger assistants and then try to trade Westbrook and Harden for whatever they can get for them and then just completely tear it down. Like, basically because I don't think Tillman can afford to keep paying for a contender and paying a big-name coach. Like, I think that's the direction this is going to go for Houston.
Yeah, well, and the other thing about JVG and John Lucas in particular, as quote-unquote experienced coaches, even though both of them have massive gaps in their work history, is that both of them already live in Houston.
Oh, so
keep your third eye open. The living expenses third eye is open right now. And I'm just saying both of those guys already live in Houston, and he would not have to pay any extra money for them to be the head coach.
Well, you know why Vinny Del Negro got the Clippers job, right?
Well, wasn't it because he was already there? Because Donald Sterling didn't want to pay.
Well, so close. You're close.
Half. Am I half right?
You're half right. He got the job because he was willing to pay his own way to fly there for the in-person interview.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God.
With Donald Sterling. And I think Tillman Fertitta, both in terms of political and social views and his level of money, like, and his willingness to spend money is kind of similar to Donald Sterling.
He's the new Donald Sterling, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, you hate to see it.
Yeah, well,
real quick on the coaching thing. We're going to talk about Ty Lue a little bit, but as much as we're unenthused about the idea of Jeff Van Gundy in Houston, I am so in on Stan in New Orleans. Like, that's a fantastic fit. I really hope that happens.
Yeah, I mean, especially now that I never thought that Ty Lue was going to take the New Orleans job. I'm on the record. You guys can listen to that pod.
Like, I mean, both of us said the day that the Doc thing happened that, him taking the Clippers job made the most sense.
Yeah, but I've also been in like, if he's in a position of power right now compared to a lot of other coaches, and it's like, it doesn't, like, if you're comparing the Clippers, as much pressure as there's pressure at every stop being an NBA head coach, and at least with the Clippers you have a high upside. Like,
and you have an owner where you don't have to question whether he's going to be willing to spend the money.
Right, and the Pelicans' upside is like, you make the playoffs.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's not that fun, especially if you're Ty Lue, who has been there.
And the Clippers are also a situation where, yes, they disappointed this year, but they still have 2 of the 10 best players in the league, in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And it might have just been in a case of guys got burned out on Doc because he'd been there for so long, and then, bring in a fresh voice. I know Ty Lue is a guy that a lot of players around the league respect. And the other thing, I think the other difference between Doc and Ty is that Doc, for as respected as he is not really very willing to go at the star players. And I mean, one of the issues with the Clippers this year was a lot, based on all the reporting that like Jovan and other people on that beat have done, is that a lot of the people, the kind of rank and file guys on that team,
they thought that was like a tiered system,
right? Thought that Paul George and Kawhi Leonard were getting special treatment. Whereas you look at Ty Lue's background, Ty Lue cursed out LeBron at halftime of Game 7 of the Finals, and LeBron fell back. So like Ty Lue also, like, he handled the LeBron Kyrie stuff when that was getting weird. Like, well,
and that's like an iconic story of the championship.
Yeah,
obviously even before that, like, it was Lue's first practice. Is like, yeah. I mean, if you watch I'm not like breaking news, like the NBA Entertainment, like documentary about the 2016 finals, like they talk about the Ty Lue move. And the thing was, like, his first day in practice, he's like, I don't think you guys are in good shape. We're going to run. And it's like telling LeBron and Kyrie, we're going to run, which is like, according to Kyrie on the Kevin Durant podcast, is like the last thing he wants to do. He's like, he hated Kenny Atkinson doing it. So like, I'm sure he hated Ty Lue doing it, but like Ty Lue doesn't give a fuck. Like, and like, there's a lot of people though too, that I think are like, and this is just the way the discourse is these days, that a lot of people are like, well, if Ty Lue's there and he's just telling Kawhi to just hoop, his leg's gonna fall off. And it's like, okay, Ty Lue,
they're not gonna be stupid about his medical stuff, but they're just
not an idiot either.
Ty Lue is not Tom Thibodeau. Like, Ty Lue is not gonna play him 40 minutes a game and play him on back-to-backs just because he can't. Like, he's gonna be.
He coached LeBron. LeBron is different. Like, LeBron's physical schedule is different than Kawhi's. Like projecting how Lue handled LeBron and how Lue's going to handle Kawhi Leonard is just not the right way to look at it. Your balance is off at that point if you are trying to make that comparison.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just think, I mean, I think this is the right hire because, I mean, not only does Ty Lue, like, he has the, he's a player's coach and players respect him and players relate to him aspect of it, which, that's a code thing that a lot of like black coaches get kind of held with. But he's also like, what was the biggest indictment or the biggest knock on Doc during the playoffs this year? It was that all of the numbers said that they played a lot better with Ivica Zubac on the floor, but he kept going to Montrezl Harrell. And what has Ty Lue been willing to do during his career as a head coach? He makes adjustments in the playoffs based on matchups, and he's more adaptable and he's less stuck in, we're going to play it my way and I have no flexibility.
But he's also not like, he doesn't also just like stick to those things either. Like, he has a balance, you know what I mean? He has that balance that I think a head coach needs between the analytics and like a gut feel about like who your team is, that is not able to be tracked. And like, I feel like he walks that line like very well for a coach, and I think he's going to do great.
Yeah, so we're both very pro the Ty Lue hire. My fingers are crossed that Stan Van Gundy gets the New Orleans job, because that'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm less excited about that because I would like for him to stay on TNT.
Yeah, but I mean, if we were making decisions based on who we want in the broadcast booth, then somebody would have hired Mark Jackson by now. Nobody wants that. No. You're
100% right. And like yeah, this I love the move for the Clippers. Their staff is going to be stacked. They're bringing Larry Drew back. Larry Drew was a great assistant on the Cavaliers team that won the Eastern Conference Championship in 2018.
Cassell's probably going to stay on if he doesn't take the Houston job.
Right, which, he might, but I mean, I don't know if I would want the job at this point if I'm Sam Cassell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and not just working for Tillman, but also like the fact that there's James Harden and Russell Westbrook might just not be there anymore.
Right.
I know it's like an ancillary part of working for Tillman, but like if those two guys are not there, like what is the upside for me of leaving? Like, because Tillman's probably not going to pay that much better than what Steve Ballmer pays assistants.
Right.
Like, I don't see that happening as a head coach. And it's just like, you're going to tank your coaching record for what? Like, Ty Lue, we talked about all the stuff about him, like all the intangibles, but like he also has a 63% winning percentage. Like that looks really good on a resume. And it's like, I don't know if Sam Cassell is going to get the same thing.
But also there's only 30 head coaching jobs. And if you're somebody like Cassell, who's been grinding for 10 years as an assistant to try to get one of these head coaching jobs, I don't think he's really in a position to turn it down, especially with the Rockets. Like I think he's going to get a lot of rope because he was on those title teams in the 90s and he is a franchise legend. And I know that Tillman is going to do whatever he can to try to get fans excited and sell tickets, and hiring somebody like that who has real ties to the team like that and has ties to the last time they were a championship team.
No, it's a good call.
Somebody that is something that I think he's going to get a lot of rope for that reason.
Yeah, no. And they already have so many connections to that era. Like, I mean, Clyde Drexler's an announcer. They have, they could have Sam Cassell as a head coach. Like Hakeem still lives in the area, sits courtside. Like you could make all the Clutch City things that you want. But the thing that sucks is like, if I'm a Rockets fan, like, I mean, I think that we saw this during the Lakers series. Like the reason why Rockets fans were getting so pissed during that series is it just felt like the end of an era for them.
Yeah.
And that like, they're never going to get back to this point because they pushed all the chips in to get Robert Covington, to trade Capella, to get rid of the picks, to get Russell Westbrook. Like everything just seemed like it was either it was win or go, win or just break up. And like, it just feels like that they are still at that same place. And now we're just seeing like the details of what that means, because I think we both had the big picture pretty much locked in after they lost to the Lakers, but now we're seeing what that big picture looks like. D'Antoni gone, Morey gone, probably James Harden gone. If I'm Milwaukee, I am calling the fucking Rockets now. Like
offering like Chris Middleton for Harden.
Chris Middleton, Bledsoe, like who the fuck cares? Get James Harden and Giannis on the same team and win a fucking championship. Like I just,
the dialogue I was starting
like
about
that's
Harden,
that's
right?
easy math for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I mean, if they can do that, they should do that. The dialogue that I've been trying to start is the Knicks. That's the team that should get Harden, and that's the team Harden should try to get to.
But okay, yes, in terms of like, I would like that just to have like New York as a market again, to have the Knicks as a team to talk about again, to be interested in again. But like in terms of like actually winning a championship, there is no duo out there that's possible where you could send James Harden there and be like, okay, I'm in, other than Milwaukee. Like I don't think him and Embiid get it done. I don't think, I don't think him with the Heat get it done. I think if you put him and Giannis together, they will figure it out, and they could easily beat the Nets. They could easily, I think they would be just as good as the Celtics. Like everybody in the NBA should be, and this is totally a shock because I don't think anyone expected this offseason, but James Harden is the guy. Like Anthony Davis is signing with the Lakers. Like he's the KD. James Harden is like the KD of this offseason in the sense that like every franchise should be trying to do everything they possibly can to get him on their team.
Yeah. I think the Knicks are the move.
It would be fun, but like if you're Milwaukee and Giannis is going to leave next year,
he hasn't said he's going to leave.
Who gives a fuck what he says in public in front of, like, again, back to the microphone situation. Like, he's not going to tell us if he's going to leave.
Well, right, but he said he's not.
Just like Kevin Durant didn't say he was going to leave. Like, if you're Milwaukee, you have to say, fuck this shit. We're going to get James Harden and make sure we gave everything to keep this dude, because you can't just let it. To me, you have seen 2 years of Giannis with Chris Middleton et al. Like, and all the role players. Like, fuck that shit. You've seen how far that can go. You need James Harden. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you know what? You will definitely have a worse regular season record. But if you get to the postseason and you have both of those dudes running pick and roll play after play, like, I think they owe it to themselves to give themselves that chance. Because if they don't, they're going to be kicking themselves like the Cavs were when they didn't, where the rumor was they didn't trade J.J. Hickson for Amari Stoudemire, which it wasn't true. But, like, you don't want that hanging in your rearview mirror if it could have possibly happened. If I'm Milwaukee, you need to take that chance now. If they can. I mean, if they can get it done. I don't know what, if he's going to be available, if the, what the asking price is going to be. I mean, I think you and I are on the same page. The Bucks need to do something, whether that's Harden or Chris Paul is probably a little bit more attainable from Oklahoma City. Like, they do need to do something. They need to do something big. I don't know if they quite have enough to get it done with Harden, but I guess if Boston's out there, like if literally all 30 teams are out there for James Harden, like, it's not going to be that easy at all. But I do think that I don't necessarily think that teams like Boston or teams like Philly, I don't think Philly's necessarily going to be like, we're going to trade Simmons or Embiid for that.
Do you think Tillman Fertitta wants to pay the Chris Middleton and Eric Bledsoe contracts?
No. Because he doesn't even know who those guys are.
Yeah. So they're not... They're gonna be trying to get back young players and picks and salary cap relief. You're not gonna be getting James Harden for like Chris Middleton or like a guy who's making $170 million and is a pretty good player. Like, cause like if you're trading Harden, you're gonna rebuild. And what is Chris Middleton on that contract and a rebuilding team gonna do for you?
Wait a minute. Minnesota.
For the number
one pick.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you put Harden with Towns.
Fuck it. And Garcìa Rosas is a former Houston executive. There's a connection there. I mean, Minnesota. I mean, and they think they're win now, and it's like, who gives a fuck if they're not gonna fucking pick someone in the draft with the number one pick and all of a sudden go from where they were to win now. The only way they go there is if they get James Harden. I'm just throwing this out here.
I'm just really excited because like if that were to happen, and remember, Tillman is trying to mend fences with China to get some of that money back.
That's right.
If they draft LaMelo Ball,
oh my god!
And he had the thing in
that was his brother.
That was
LiAngelo,
but it's still like the Ball family had the thing in China where like
they stepped out of they stepped out in China.
I think it's the Knicks. Because I mean, you could make up the money with like Julius Randle or whatever, like Ryan Portis or something,
right.
And then you give them like RJ Barrett, who could still be decent, like a young player. And they have like the number 8 pick this year. They have other picks. Thibodeau will let him ISO all day. He'll take the Knicks to the playoffs, and that is going to be enough because if he flames out in the playoffs again, the narrative isn't James Harden choked in the playoffs again. It's James Harden made the Knicks relevant again.
Right, and there's also a realistic possibility, even like as much as I'm high on Brooklyn. Like, this. Like, I think Brooklyn's going to be good.
I'm not.
Right, I know you're not. But even though I'm high on Brooklyn, I can totally say like a team with James Harden on it on the Knicks could 100% get a better record in the regular season than the Knicks or get than the Nets. And
Dolan wants to too, because he sees that now there's all this buzz about the Nets, because they got Kyrie, they got Durant, they made the big splashy head coaching hire with Steve Nash, and James Dolan could be like, you know what, you guys are getting all this buzz, we're gonna take back the city, we're gonna own New York, we're gonna get James Harden.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and James could be pulling up to the games like Clyde Frazier with like a fur coat and all this shit. Yeah. Like,
he's gonna love the nightlife stuff in New York. Like, he can own the city. If the Knicks are even decent again, he can own the city.
Yeah,
like
dude.
this is the move.
Oh my god, dude! And I just saw the vision too of Kevin Durant being like extremely pissed off that this is happening. Like, can you imagine? Can you imagine? Like, it's just another chapter in Kevin Durant just being like, why am I always the second fiddle everywhere?
Firing up the burner accounts again, just to be like, you know what? James Harden was the problem in Oklahoma City when they were together. People do forget that,
dude. I'm totally seeing it like him just like firing off hot takes on the podcast, like James Harden was the problem. Like, there's gonna be a whole podcast like
he was a problem, like in the problem sense, not the steam face emoji sense.
God. This is, I almost feel bad now putting this into the universe that it's going to happen to Kevin Durant again, but I feel like it's going to happen to Kevin Durant again with like being second fiddle. He went to New York City to be like the hero, and now James Harden shows up to play for the fucking Knicks. The move that he was too cowardly to make himself and make them a winner. Like, that's going to be wow.
I'm telling you, this is the wave.
This is happening. Open your third eye, listeners. This is get your James Harden New York Knicks jerseys ready to order, because and maybe get your season, if you're in New York, get your season tickets in right now, because they're gonna go up like 125% in value.
On top of them only allowing like 25% of the fans in because of the pandemic.
That's right.
So you want to do bubble moments?
I think we should do bubble moments. I wrote down my top 10 right before this episode.
I've got my 10. Neither of us know what each other picked. So
okay. Should we each do one back and forth?
Let's do one back and forth.
Let's start. I would like to start with 10 because I have one like as like a higher ranked situation.
Oh, I didn't rank them. I'm just gonna go with
okay. Well, I'll just go with one then.
Okay.
Number one, my number one moment. Sorry to not build up any. I'm gonna go backwards. We're gonna alternate, but I'm gonna go backwards.
Okay.
Because I do have them ranked, and they matter. I was going over them with my wife right before we talked about it because we both watched the bubble intently. We're both very sad it's gone. But number 10 on my list, DeAndre Ayton shows up to the game in the second quarter after falling asleep for his COVID test and shows up in the middle of the game for the Phoenix Suns. I believe they were playing the Pacers. They go down by like 17. He comes back and I think they were down by 10 when he got back in the game. They end up winning the game, but it was like the most hilarious entrance to a game and the most 2020 entrance to a game where he fell asleep, missed his COVID test. I called him Quarantine Willis Reed when it happened. DeAndre Ayton skipping the test and then coming back to play in the game is my number 10 moment of the bubble.
That's pretty good. That's just in the same season when DeAndre Ayton, back before the pandemic, when DeAndre Ayton served a 25-game PED suspension. That's just incredible.
Yes. And I was definitely making jokes about how he was skipping out on the COVID test because he thought it might make him test also positive for PEDs.
PED test. Yeah. Right. So that actually leads into one of my bubble moments / memories is just the Suns going 8-0 in the seeding games. That was like Devin Booker's bubble Dior run, Cameron Payne being good now, the Kelly Oubre Jr. sitting out and it not mattering and that dialogue starting, the whole thing, just all of this.
The Monty Williams post-game videos from the locker room were making me cry. Mikal Bridges was an amazing force on the defensive end. You had Devin Booker, obviously, and you mentioned the campaign stuff, which was just incredible. Saric was a really great backup center, And the Ayton thing was just like so funny, and I just loved Monty Williams. I'm so excited for them. They also won me money in the bubble, so shout out to them for helping me win my over-under pool because I had over Phoenix. Their win total.
Shout out to Eric's Gambling Corner. Got to represent in this list.
Yeah, Eric's Gambling Corner is here. And actually, wait, I have to shout out another moment from the Suns because I just remembered it while we were talking. The game winner that he had over Kawhi and Paul George, Devin Booker, like that game winner, if that wasn't a fucking foreshadowing of the Clippers being frauds, I don't know what was, but that turnaround over both of those dudes in like the third game of the bubble was like, it was like a wishbone. It was like one team is the team of destiny and the other team is the team of shit. And it was like the Suns were going down in glory and the Clippers went down in disgrace. And it was a poetic moment. So thank you to the Suns for showing us the way.
Absolutely. So we're, I guess to segue then into one of my next moments, we just talked about the Clippers being frauds. We got to talk about Lou Will and Magic City. That's got to be on the list.
That's also a moment for me, of course. And that was, that was again a sign that they were not serious, a sign that they did not want to be here, a sign that they were not going to win the championship. And I know that Lou Will and his family were hit by tragedy.
Yeah.
But we also
don't go to a strip club during a pandemic.
But also don't lie to us about how like you were only there for the food when like we can clearly see you and Jack Harlow enjoying some cocktails.
And then there was also like the LA Times report about how he was there for like several hours.
Right, which that came out like 2 weeks after he got suspended. Like the LA Times wasn't about to report that because the LA Times wanted the LA showdown. They didn't want to out Lou Will. They didn't want to do that. But once the NBA found out that Lou Will did what he did and he was spending as much time at the club as he was, they were like, all right, we're going to air out this dirty laundry because this dude ruined probably years, not years, because that's way too long in the news business, but at least a couple months of design work that they had going on the LA versus LA sports page cover for the LA Times. That they were working on that for a while and they were never able to use it.
No, this was reported before the Clippers got eliminated.
No, but I'm saying that I'm saying that they did that before he got is what I'm saying. Right. They were working on it before they got to the bubble. You know what I mean? Like I'm saying they were working on that before the Clippers were eliminated, before anybody got to the bubble. I'm sure when they knew that the bubble was happening, they were like, we got to get the sports page ready. How many designs do we have? Blah, blah, blah. Because there was no sports going on. Like, what else were they doing?
Right. So the Lou Will thing, I just really enjoyed the discourse about the Lou Will thing. Every single NBA writer who has been to Magic City was like, you know what? Those wings are really good. People are making too big a deal about this. I have been to Magic City, just so you guys know. I have paid for a lap dance, folks, and I have had the wings. That's like literally what every NBA reporter was like, I expensed a lap dance once, It was just a flex. It was just a very inside baseball media flex.
Oh my God, so true. It was 100% inside baseball, and every NBA fan that like wanted to like see games was like, no. But the only people that were like, ass kissing to like NBA people to be like, well, I would have done the same thing, to people that wouldn't like pay them any mind at all was like pretty hilarious.
Yeah. And also just the same people who were like the ones that were like,
anti-bubble,
for lack of a better term, positive test Twitter.
Yeah. Positive test Twitter.
Not one of my top 10 memories.
No, anti-testing Twitter, testing truther Twitter, that people just thought that like the NBA's testing was just like not going to work and wasn't going to be good, even though they spared literally no expense in making sure that those tests were good. There was the whole one thing I will definitely not miss between now and whenever the next season starts, whenever that happens, is it's probably going to happen if they decide to let teams decide whether they can have fans. But
the positive test Twitter is coming back with a vengeance if that happens.
Oh, absolutely. But positive test Twitter with regards to the bubble was like one of the weirdest phenomenons that I've ever experienced, in that people were projecting onto the NBA to like be the government, and like they're not the government.
Right.
It was just like, this is way over the top. I would like to get to my next to number 9 on my list, if possible. Okay. Lou Will was number 8, and the Clippers were number 8. Well, the Clippers elimination has to be, that's my number 8. But before we get to number 8, I want to get to number 9.
Okay.
Jimmy Butler.
Big Face Coffee.
Big Face Coffee and the Miami Heat exceeding every reasonable expectation. And I think breathing a little bit of magic into this postseason, because while LeBron and Anthony Davis were so good, and Jamal Murray, I think, also brought a ton of magic, as did Dame, which we'll get to later.
Yeah.
I thought that the Heat collectively brought the magic of what playing together as a 5-man unit can do, what believing in your scheme can do, and what also just the work can do. And it's like, we get caught up into the big names and everything, and I hate to be this cliche, and obviously Miami has tons, they're great and they have a lot of attractiveness about their market, but they play a brand of basketball that is attainable to anybody. And I thought that it was really fun to watch what they did to Milwaukee. And even though, to my dismay and to the loss of money, what they did to the Celtics, like, and also those 2 games they got off the Lakers, like, that was fun. Like, the playoffs and the bubble would not have been the same without Jimmy Butler and the Heat. And so I want to make sure that they got on my list, because they did a lot. Shout out to Erik Spoelstra as well. Like, that was really fun. And Jimmy had 2 truly iconic games in the NBA Finals, and not a lot of guys get to say that.
Well, just so much stuff about this Heat team, not just Jimmy, but like Bam had his star turn in that closeout game against Boston.
The block,
Tyler Hero had
the block that he had was just insane.
Yeah, like Tyler Hero had a couple of huge games. Duncan Robinson had some big moments.
Yeah, he had a big game in the finals. Game 5, that was, other than Jimmy, that was Duncan's moment. Like, he had 26, I think, in that game, and it was like, here he is. Like this guy's not just like some random guy. Like, they had, and Kelly Olynyk even had a game for the Heat. Like, it was a fun run for them.
Yeah. Goran Dragic, who until he got hurt in the finals, but until then he was their leading scorer, and he's a guy that I feel like gets forgotten about a lot in just like discussions in NBA circles, and he had a huge playoff, so that was cool for him. Our guy Myers, had some moments. He wasn't really in the rotation that much, but he was in there. He was in the mix. He actually started a game in the finals.
Yeah, and Dragic, I mean he was so key, and they basically changed, and this is an Erik Spoelstra shout out. They basically, like, among all the teams in the bubble, I don't think any team changed as much between the end of the hiatus or the end of the regular season in March and the start of the bubble than the Heat did. Like, Spoelstra spent a lot of time trying to reimagine who the Heat were, and as soon as they got to the bubble, that's who they were. And like, he deserves a ton of credit, and like, I feel like he is the one that really saw the pieces on the Heat and then created the vision, and obviously the players executed it to the best of their ability, which like is cool to see from a team of this many guys. And it reminded me a little bit of the Spurs in the sense that, and maybe that's what they've always wanted as the Heat, like to build a Spurs-esque culture where you like, it doesn't matter where you are on the roster, like you can come in and you're going to execute your role and you're going to contribute, and the team is going to play well and have a chance to win.
Totally. So, I guess as sort of a little bit of an addendum to the Heat thing, one of my items, we can just kind of hit this quickly, but I was all in on Big Face Coffee. I love it.
Yeah.
It was so. And then there was like the Malika wrote the story about how there was like some competition where one of the Heat's like assistant equipment managers or something was selling black coffee at a way reduced price called Little Face, and then all throughout I was on most of those Zoom calls during like the conference finals and the finals, and there were all of those times where Jimmy would be asked about it, and he's like, I'm not giving out a discount, and then like Bam would be like, oh, the coffee's way too expensive. Like it just became like a running joke, and it was so funny. It was so wholesome, and just like Jimmy was like pull up wearing the Big Face Coffee T-shirts, which I would imagine him and Mark Wahlberg are probably gonna sell at some point.
Well, him and Lululemon have a deal for that stuff. He's like grifted a Lululemon deal out of that.
You know what? Megan, she got game. Who's like one of the OGs of like NBA fashion stuff. She is speculating. She has a newsletter where she just writes about like sports fashion stuff, like
trends and whatnot. Yeah. Sports fashion trends.
Yeah,
industry.
She is speculating because Jimmy is a shoe free agent currently. He's been with Jordan. He is currently a free agent. She has speculated that Jimmy might be the flagship endorser for Lululemon's upcoming athletic shoe line.
Wow.
Which that would be a move for Jimmy.
I mean, the bag would presumably be there. I mean,
for sure.
And the thing is, too, is like I'm sure if he had he's in a position where he could be like Lululemon, like I'll do your athletic shoe endorser, but like I'll still be Jordan basketball shoes or something like that, and he could still get maybe. Maybe like he might be in that position to be able to do that. But maybe not because Jordan has Luka and Zion now. But hey,
well, he's out with Jordan now. Like he's parted ways with them,
right? But
like, he's been with them, but
right,
I don't think he's gonna go back.
Well, I mean, if the bag is there, but maybe the bag isn't there, and the bag is bigger with Lululemon, which I believe because Jordan has given their dollars to Zion and Luka. But number 6, just to transition, I mean, it's an easy segue. Finals opponent, LeBron James. I think just deserves a little bit of recognition in my top 10 list, because he was so fucking good. Like he's just a good, again, basically every single closeout game, he was phenomenal. Every time that the Lakers had a big game on the horizon, he would lead the way. He led them for the whole season. He was a big reason why they had a lot of chemistry. I thought the fact that he trusted, I felt like what he did this season in realizing that his power can be better used when he knows how to just pump the brakes every once in a while and not try to match everyone and be like, I'm the most powerful person. I feel like his being able to realize if I give this person something, they're going to pay me back in return. And I feel like he learned that throughout the season. He obviously learned that with the Lakers, with Jeannie Buss, with Rich Paul, and Rich Paul helping him execute that vision with Rob Pelinka and Frank Vogel. And then also the play that he had, was just it was insane how good he was. I mean, we've never seen anybody at this age do it this way, and he deserves recognition because he is amazing. And the 4th ring, that's an incredible accomplishment. And he was the best player in the bubble still. As much as we want to, we're talking about next year and all this stuff and what happened, but to me, even at this stage, he was the best player in the bubble, and that to me was special. And the fact that he took obviously Anthony Davis, but the fact that he took the rest of that crew to a championship is incredible. It's a pickup game
interesting team. Yeah, this is out of the championship teams that he's been on, I think this is on paper, this is probably the worst one of those teams.
Except for the fact that they were the most dominant team of them all, because he was amazing,
and so was Anthony Davis. They just don't. I think the lesson was just you put those two together, and it really just doesn't matter what you have around them.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally true. I mean, that's what they proved. They were the greatest duo that we've seen in a long time. And
they're the new Shaq and Kobe.
They're the new Shaq and Kobe, and LeBron, even at this age, whereas like it's they're like Shaq and Kobe, and then they're not, because LeBron he's seemingly getting better every year. He gets better at something. Maybe he's not like taking the rim off, and he's not protecting the rim like he was in Miami, but he is still so good at everything. And seemingly he's getting better at everything from the perimeter. Like that game 5 against the Heat, he was hitting all those threes. Even though they lose that game, like he was hitting shots that like the 2012 LeBron couldn't even think of. Like, and it seems like he's getting better at certain things, and like he's going to be good for a long time, because with his smarts, with his ability, with his conditioning, with his ability to consistently get better, like it's special. And like I don't know what it's going to be next year in the Western Conference. I'm not going to say it's going to, I think a lot of people are like, all right, it's going to be Clippers Lakers or Lakers Warriors, but like whatever it is, like it runs through LeBron.
I think the Lakers are title favorites next year, and here's why. I mean, I don't know what their team is going to look like next year, and we're going to have a lot of time this offseason to get into free agency stuff, but the money is not going to be there for most people in free agency because of how much lower the salary cap is going to be because of the pandemic.
And the championship, and the championship price of the brick is going up, dude. Like that. Like,
well, yeah, and you're going to see guys like, I don't know, like I don't even remember who like the big free agents are.
It's
like
Rondo,
Gallinari.
Well, I'm just talking about the Lakers guys.
Like, I don't even care about any of the guys the Lakers have. I'm talking about like guys around the league, like Danilo Gallinari or Kelly Oubre, or like some of these guys that in a normal year when it's kind of a weak free agent class at the top.
Bogdan Bogdanovic.
Yeah, any of those guys that you want to name. Like those guys normally in a normal year would be getting the bag from like a bunch of different teams. That money might not be there for them this year. And so I think you're going to see at least a couple of really good rotation players who in a normal year would get a lot of money from Charlotte or something. Just say, you know what, the money's not there for me. I'm going to just take a 1-year deal with the Lakers and go ring chasing. And so you're going to see the Lakers get a couple of upgrades for below market because they're the Lakers and because guys want to go play with LeBron and AD.
100%. No, you're right about that. And they might lose guys because some like Rondo might get more money per year. I saw in the Shams column.
Speaking of which, we need to start the dialogue. Rip City Rajon,
Rondo, Blazer. That was
Neil O'Shea challenge.
Hey, I'm down with it. The Blazers need a backup point guard. I know that the Blazers mainstream media is all about Anthony Simons, but if you're really serious about winning a championship, maybe you should have a better backup point guard than Anthony Simons. I'm just going to throw that out there. As much as I like the kid, maybe have a veteran, maybe pay a little money. Maybe that's the guy that they get, because they could do Rondo. They bring back Melo. They have their young guys, Rodney Hood, Gary Trent. I don't know what the Ariza situation. He has an opt out, and he also is partially.
No, he doesn't have an opt out. They could guarantee his contract.
Well, then they could bring him back. So you have a bunch of those guys signing for the minimum, basically, and hopefully you get a healthy year out of Collins and Nurk, and I could see the vision. And this goes into my number 5 moment of the bubble, Carmelo Anthony. I wanted to this. It had to be marked, bro. Like
stay mellow.
So many times in this bubble, bro. Like obviously Dame gets the accolades and he got the bubble MVP, and as he should. But we watched one of those games together, or we were doing IG Live, like the Philly game against like the Philly B squad. Okay, like granted, like Embiid goes out, but like when Dame was dragging, when CJ was dragging, when the whole team basically had nothing, Melo hit a bunch of big shots to get them in the game. And then when they won the playoff game against the Lakers, he hit a huge shot. Against the Grizzlies, he hit a huge shot. Like basically every game that they won in the bubble, Carmelo Anthony had a huge shot, and it was really cool to just watch that, be a part of that, and just embrace that this dude was like, he's just a true hooper. No fans, no nothing. Like, this dude came to just play, and he's here for the love of it. And like, to me, obviously LeBron James was like the ultimate example of this, but the fact that Melo was able to come back, and because I think there was a lot of skepticism even with Portland when he did well, that like, you know, was this for real? But then like when everyone was watching him on East Coast time in the bubble, everyone was like, holy shit, like Melo, like he's still this dude. And like, that was to me like such an important part of the bubble for my experience and how I consumed it.
Many people were hating to see it. Many people didn't want to see it happen. Many people didn't want to admit it.
No, they did not.
But
we're here. And he told TMZ he's coming back to Portland.
Oh, did he? I didn't see. When was this?
Well, it was like yesterday. They interviewed him outside of one of the gyms in New York.
Oh, I missed this.
And he was like, they're asking like, are you looking at any teams? Like the paparazzi were asking him, like, are you looking at any teams? Like, nah, I'm still with Portland. So,
okay.
Because
I just enjoyed that he came back like down 20 pounds or something, and he was asked about it, and he was like, you know, there's hoodie Melo, there's Olympic Melo, I'm skinny Melo now, I'm bubble Melo.
Yeah, exactly. It is like he just embraces all the versions, and
yeah,
I finally listened to the podcast that he was on with JJ Redick.
That was good, right?
It was good. It was good. Them talking about the McDonald's game when they were in the same draft class was really funny, and I can just see Melo now like doing the same shit in the Blazers locker room. And I also, the other thing about Melo is that I just loved how much the Blazers, all the guys on the team, just loved the fact that Carmelo Anthony was their teammate. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like they just
absolutely.
They really just embraced like this dude has been like, he has lived so many different basketball lives. He's a legend. There's not many dudes that have ever lived that have had a career like him, and they really embrace that. And the renaissance of Carmelo was a top 10 bubble moment for me.
Okay, so now I guess I want to transition into another Blazers thing.
Okay.
And I'm just going to put this to you as a question, Erik.
Okay.
Right now, you're playing in a time of multiple clutch situations. Social injustice to face. The pandemic. A championship. What is Dame time going to look like in response to these current times? Shout out to
Shout out to her family.
I don't know what that woman's name was.
I don't know.
I know it's like,
but shout out to her family, dude. Oh my god,
Damian Lillard.
We are gonna get drinks and dine out on this question together for the rest of our lives.
This is like an all-timer. Like I've been covering the NBA for like 7 or 8 years now professionally. I have been at multiple press conferences. I think the all-timer is still the one where David Blatt compared himself to a fighter pilot after he drew up a play that LeBron shook off in that Bulls-Cavs series. But this Zoom call with Dame and this random like TV lady who I don't even know, like I don't know where she's from or like,
shout out
I don't know.
Shout out to her.
Shout out to her. And she just asks basically asking Damian Lillard if he's going to hit a 37-footer over racism. And everything like we talked about Dame already with like he won the Bubble D'Or and
Darren Rovell already said that LeBron hit a 37-footer against racism because he did it for voter registration. He did
that's
it for
true.
Akron.
Like that's true. And
California.
there was a clutch points graphic like around the time of the clutch points is not one of my 10 moments, but they are the true Bubble D'Or.
No. You can't rank a clutch points moment.
We're gonna do
They transcend.
We're gonna do a whole episode about clutch points graphics at some point during the offseason. But they had a graphic around the time that the Bucks players walked out that was like, it's time for you to set the pick and make the extra pass to create change. So it was just this lady who asked the question to Dame. She started a movement. She started a movement that has not lost momentum ever since, and she is an icon for that.
Does she work? I'm like starting to question whether she was actually a reporter or a deep fake brought by Adam Silver to like get the question that he wanted asked. Because it was like when Adam Silver was doing the post championship, it was like, we were here for something bigger than basketball. And I was like, Adam, shut the fuck up.
Do you remember that the last Phil press conference with the Lakers, the same one with the "Do you don't smoke peyote" line? But the last question he got was from that like fake cowboy reporter who was just like, do you know what I'm talking about?
I think the Dallas one.
Yeah. Like the cowboy,
the one who asked LeBron about the razzle dazzle.
That guy. But that guy like had a funny question of the Phil thing. That's what I remember. But yeah.
Oh my god.
And Phil responded like, "Boy, howdy."
Oh my god.
So like, this is just like the Zoom. There was so much shenanigans on some of these Zoom calls. Like
Zoom has to be ranked. Like Zoom has
absolutely.
Zoom as an entity. All the bad questions.
I mean, there were just so many, like you're wearing the Mamba, Frank Vogel, you're wearing the Mamba jerseys again tonight. Will we see some Mamba mentality?
I felt bad, like, once I, like, asked, it was just, like, weird, like, it's also so weird, like, video conferencing guys, like,
yeah.
Like, so after the first game of the bubble, the Blazers win, and someone asks Nurk a question, and Nurk is like, hey, so I was going to answer questions, but my grandma has COVID and she's in a coma.
Yeah.
And it's just like, huh, what?
Yeah.
And it's just like, you're there on Zoom. You can't be like, oh shit, man. Like, and be like, kind of like weasel your way out of like a real press conference. Like you probably would in that situation. And like, he still had to sit there and answer questions for fucking 5 minutes. And it's just like,
at that point, they could have just not even like had him come out. Like we would have been okay if Nurk hadn't answered questions the day that his grandmother got diagnosed with COVID.
Or when she died,
right?
And they beat the Grizzlies, and it was like the media was like, "Well, is Nurk gonna talk?" And it was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" That would never happen outside of the bubble.
And he did talk, but like, why would he? You don't need Nurk to talk. Like, you'll be okay if Nurk doesn't talk the day that his grandma dies. Like, okay, it's gonna be fine. And kind of the same thing happened later on, like when the Breonna Taylor verdict happened and guys were trying to answer questions about it, and they clearly like, or like right after they walked out after the Jacob Blake shooting, and like you could just clearly tell that like none of them really wanted to be there. None of them wanted to be answering these questions, and you can't really blame them for that. Like, just all of this dynamics are just not the same.
I mean,
Zoom calls.
I mean, I still have to say, I mean, we ran right into it by talking about it, but still, my number 4 thing about the bubble, honestly, like, I'm not going to necessarily miss it, but it is 100% one of the top 5 things about the bubble was the strike, social
that was
justice,
on my list too.
Everything that happened, all the stoppage in play, the Bucks quitting, whether the season was going to go on, the entire world, sports world especially, stopping. I mean, there were football teams canceling practice. There were baseball teams canceling games. There were,
Naomi Osaka pulled out of the whatever tournament
she was right before the U.S. Open. She pulls out. Like, there was just so many things that happened that were attached to that strike that, having written about it and having to cover it, like, even if it wasn't like my favorite part, but it absolutely is
the most important.
The most important. It's number 4 on my list. It is just it's so incredible what happened and the ramifications of it. Like, what happened, what's going to happen. Like, obviously, I'm not even talking about the ramifications of like what it means for social justice, but like, what does it mean for the NBA? Like, what does it mean for the future of the league? What does it mean for the next, if there's a collective bargaining, struggle, like what happens? Like, how much does this affect that? And it's just like, and it was the first strike that we've had in the league in 50 years. And it was just like something that we've never seen before. And it has to be a part of the overall story of this bubble. And so, we talked about Jacob Blake, but that brought it to my mind. And that was my number 4 moment in my top 10 list of the bubble, was just the fact that the Milwaukee Bucks did what they did.
Yeah, and that just kind of just showed just how much power these guys have. And I mean, I know there were people who were downplaying it and saying they should have gone all the way and actually like walked out on the season, but they did get those voter precincts in their arenas that like they didn't what they got was not nothing.
No, and they got more like the Toyota Center in Houston. Like obviously there have been some that have fallen through, but like ultimately they pressed the owners for action. And also like that was a moment when they literally said like sports stopped, and like after the wheels had been turning for it to get to a finish, like the fact that they were able to stop it and say like, hey, we have something more to say was really, to me, we don't even know the greater impact of what that moment will have. We just don't.
And even just from the mental health standpoint of it, where even if they were never really going to walk off and stop the season, which I never thought for a second they were actually going to do because there was just too much money at stake for everybody. But just the fact that they stood up after the Jacob Blake thing, they stood up and you were just like, you know what? We're just so emotionally drained by this. We do not want to play today. Like we just, we need to take a mental health day.
Mental health day. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And they were willing to, and they did that and everybody just kind of went with it. And I think that's really important too.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, like, we're not saying, like, whether they would have stopped playing is going to solve racism. Like, we're not that dumb. Like, right. But, like, we do know that it's like, fuck it. Like, we can't play right now. Like, we're not machines. Like, we need a fucking minute. And, like,
we need to process this stuff.
Yeah.
Just like everybody else.
Right. And the Bucks needed a fucking minute. And they were just like, you know what? No, we're not doing this today. We're not going to do this right now. Like, we're not going to just go play when someone in our community was murdered by the police. Like, fuck that. And I respect that very highly. This is a much lighter note, but my number 3.
Yeah, mine are all much lighter after this.
Yeah, my number 3 is a tandem award. I guess I'm going to call it like the bubble most enjoyable players award, and I'm going to split that between, I'm going to do a 3-way tie. It's going to go with Devin Booker, Dame, and Jamal Murray. Like those 3 guys were so much fun. I have another guy that I want to talk about in a separate sentence to them, but I thought Dame, Jamal Murray, and Booker all in their own ways kind of carried their own, like they kind of like passed the torch to each other. Like Booker was the early bubble king, then it was Dame, then it was Jamal Murray, and like those 3 guys as like the guard, type guys, I just thought were so special with just their overall play that I just thought that I wanted to acknowledge how good that they were.
I was going to shout out the Nuggets with their Fireball 4 run.
Ooh, yeah.
Which I guess ties into Jamal Murray. Or like the beginning of the bubble, like half their team was out with COVID, and they couldn't. That's where the Fireball 4 thing came from, because they couldn't even play 5-on-5 in their scrimmages, and they were like that first like preseason scrimmage game thing. They were starting Bol at shooting guard,
and it wasn't a joke. It wasn't a joke. No. Like they had to start him. Like there was no like they were barely fielding a team. They couldn't practice. Like, and while every team, and I was on this thing, I was like, if they can't practice, every team is getting better and they're getting worse. Like I was like hung up on this thing. Like I cannot believe that this is what's happening to them. And then, and they go down 3-1 against the Jazz. And I'm like, I feel incredibly validated for my take.
After game 3, it was just that game 3, they were so checked out, and you're just like, okay, they're ready to go home. But then they come back from down 3-1, and then they just have those epic battles where Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell are like dropping 50 in the same game and just going back and forth at each other for like several games in a row, and that was awesome. And then the next round against the Clippers, Jamal Murray goes off again, and they come back from down 3-1, and he really just certifies himself.
Down 18 at the end of the third quarter. Not only down 3-1, they were down 3-1 and down 18 at the end of the third, and somehow managed to win that game. Like we talk about the Houston Rockets comeback against the Clippers 3-1 in 2015 a lot, but I think this one was just like. Also, I think this one's going to have more staying power because the guys that made that comeback for Houston were a bunch of reserves. Like it was Josh Smith and a bunch of guys. Like it was not James Harden leading the charge, but this was Jokic and Murray and Paul Millsap a little bit. But like it was mostly the main guys leading the charge.
Jeremy Grant, who I think they're going to re-sign.
Yes, and so they had all these guys that are part of their core and part of their future and part of their past too. Like they went 7 games to the Blazers last year and they had that tough loss and they built off of that and they showed their grit in that series and beyond. And like the Nuggets are, you look at Jokic, like he's 24, Murray's 22, like these guys are babies. Like they had a great run and I was down on them obviously coming into the bubble, but they proved me wrong and they obviously have a bright future. They did all that without Will Barton. Like they're going to be in the mix next year for sure.
Yeah, I have another one my next one is related to a Nuggets player among others.
Okay.
But I'm going to go with Michael Porter Jr. and Dwight Howard and others pushing COVID conspiracy theories.
Yeah, shout out to Terrence Davis from the Toronto Raptors as well.
Yeah. Shout out to Rudy Gobert with like every opinion is just a perspective or every statement is just not fact. Like
very
Instagram
big
story, which is
dude. Should we Rudy to the Nets? Perhaps
for Jared Allen.
For Jared Allen,
I don't know.
Dialogue?
Just starting a dialogue.
Yeah,
we can start the dialogue.
We can start the dialogue.
Low key, Dame was part of this too. Like people forget.
Dame, wow, way back before the bubble started. Yeah, Dame was pushing COVID conspiracies as well. He did delete the tweets, which I think is a sign of being like, maybe not the best.
Realizing
move.
This ain't it.
Yeah, realizing that's not the move, even though he probably won't admit that in public because it would be like taking an L on something that he doesn't want to take an L on. But I definitely think that it was a bad moment it was one of the lower moments for the league that a lot of their key players were like, masks don't matter when we're all getting tested every single day. Well, it's like, guess what? No one lives in a situation where everyone around them gets tested every single day. And so you live literally in a bubble, but you won't recognize that. And it was just like...
MPJ comes out and basically says that the entire, like, COVID is government, like, population control. And, like, then you come out, and it comes out that, like, he and Dwight both, like, follow a bunch of QAnon accounts. It was just not a good look for the league, but I thought it was entertaining.
It was, honestly, like, I was happy that we had content. But my number 2... I have 2 more before we wrap this up, but
what do I have? I have 1, 2. I've got 4.
Okay.
I think we got like off.
Okay.
Off on like who's doing what.
Sorry. Do you want to go next?
No, you do your next one. We'll see if it's one of mine.
Okay, Luka.
Okay, that wasn't one of mine.
Luka is on my list. Like the game winner against the Clippers was incredible. It was an I have arrived moment. His play, like basically every single one of those games, even the game that he fucked up his ankle, like was great. He played through it. He took Paul George and Kawhi off the dribble literally anytime he wanted. It did not matter. And this kid is it, man. Like he is it. Like we talk about trying to find the next guy. Zion got a lot of and I know that Luka had plenty of national television games this year, but we have to blow this kid up insanely because this kid is amazing. He was put on this earth to play basketball, and he is. We haven't seen, like, LeBron raised the level of player for the whole league, but there haven't been anybody that at 20 years old that does what Luka has done in the NBA. And like if you're a basketball fan and you don't even have a favorite team or whatever, and you don't really care, like you should be a Luka fan like now. Like if you don't have a team or any affiliation or whatever, like Luka is the man. Like that guy is going to be so good. And I saw the rumor the other day that the Mavericks, I mean, if I'm Giannis and they let me run to the end of my contract and they don't do anything, Luka is like number one on my list to be able to be the guy that I want to play with, because Steph's already, on the other side of 30 and Luka's 20 and he's already this good. Like, he to me is number 2 on the list of just like, wow. It just stunned me how ready he was for the moment.
Yeah, this was really just, we already knew how good Luka was. Sure. He had an incredible rookie season, and he was an MVP candidate this past year before the pandemic. But this was really just a moment for him where it was just like, okay, this is really, like, this is for real. This guy is going to be, like, once LeBron is done, this guy might be, like, the next best player in the league. Like, that's how good he is.
Yeah, he is already, like, I'm waiting for the LeBron Luka series. Like, I want that so bad. Like
that one game they had at the beginning of the regular season was awesome.
Yeah, the one where they went into OT and I think Luka had like 37 and a triple double and a loss. Like it was, and they obviously Dallas needs to improve. They can make their team a lot better, obviously, but like, what they have there as him for the future is like. It's incredible. Like it's at a higher level again at this age than we've ever seen from anyone. Like he's playing at the same level that Kevin Durant was playing at when he was like 22, and he's 2 years younger than him, and he's already doing all the incredible things, and he clearly has no fear of the big moment. And it was clearly, again, like LeBron, he's a kid that has grown up with all this hype around him. He was called El Niño Maravilla when he was 14 at Real Madrid. Like the kid is just, he is built for this and was born for this. And I cannot wait to watch him next season. And like, he's clearly a top 3, top 5 MVP candidate for sure for next season.
All right. So I'm going to just combine 2 of my next ones that I have, because they're sort of in the same family.
Okay. Shout out to the family.
Richaun Holmes and Danuel House.
Yes.
just violating bubble rules and just general, like Richaun Holmes at the beginning of the bubble was like getting a Postmates order and he had to quarantine again. And then obviously Danuel House let somebody into his room, and that messed up the whole Rockets.
According to Twitter, they have found love after the bubble.
Oh, really?
Allegedly, they have found love.
Hell yeah. No, okay, good for Danuel House. I'm glad it led to something.
Yeah, no, hey, it wasn't just a bubble hookup to get him out of the playoffs.
Yeah. And then so my next one is this is one that's very close to the Bulls versus Blazers extended universe's heart. I have 2 more, so I'll do this one, you'll do your next one, and then I'll close it out. I think you're not going to have a better closeout one than me.
No. Okay.
We'll
see. We'll see.
But for right now, the Amazon Prime quarantine, the fail of the Amazon Prime quarantine for Zion Williamson. Just, you really hated to see that in the moment. And now you even more so hate to see it in retrospect.
Wow. And also, it's like, is the Amazon Prime quarantine even going to be part of the NBA's planning, like, in next season? Are they just going to be like, well, fuck this. Like, are we going to plan around this fucking Zion guy? Like,
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Like, he's only a kid, but like, I cannot, like, I don't know. Like, I have to imagine that at least this season got to their minds and their thought process of like being like, I don't know about this whole like building the whole NBA calendar around a 20-year-old kid who isn't.
Oh,
LeBron
they're still
James.
going to. They're still going to, especially if they hire Stan Van Gundy, because he's a big name coach, and that's going to be like, it's going to be like when the Timberwolves hired Tibbs after Towns' rookie year.
That's not a great. That's not the best comparison, but
no, it's not. It's not. But in terms of how the NBA was hyping them up as like the next team,
fair. Not the best for his success, though.
No, you don't. No, you don't want that. But like, that's. I mean, just you hated to see it. You hated to see the NBA really pull out all the stops to get the Pelicans in the playoffs, and then they showed up and it was like, nah, we're good. We don't even want.
Yeah, we don't. And our coach, like, we all know our coach is getting fired, and they're like, fuck this, and like Lonzo Ball was like, I'm done. Yeah, and I'm going to sign with Clutch and then go back to the Lakers in a couple of years. Like, they did all.
So what do you have, Lex?
I have one last one. Number one moment for me in the bubble, I think absolutely has to be the Celtics-Raptors second round series that we had. That's my number one. And also included in that is the OG Anunoby corner 3-pointer / like stoic victory, like statuesque reaction to the shot. Like that whole series was like just a cardiac just exercise every fucking game, and every game came down to the wire. The champs fought valiantly. It literally came down to like the last shot of the fucking series.
Yeah. It was like that Bulls Celtics series in like 2009.
Yes.
Like Rose's rookie year, where it was like a first round series, but it went 7 games. Like half the games went to overtime, and like.
Yeah, it was by far the best series. It was the most entertaining. Even Kelsey was like getting into it and like super stoked on it, and was just like every game was incredible, and it was back and forth, and 2 young teams. I mean, the Celtics young in their own right, and then you have the younger Raptors plus the kind of Asian guys with Lowry and Ibaka and Gasol, like holding on to that last championship defense. And it was like, obviously, you know, they weren't the champions. They didn't end as champions. They didn't even make it to the conference finals. But to me, I thought that the Celtics-Raptors series was the best series of all of them, and it was the best basketball. And I thought it was really like, if you wanted to show one person in like, if you had to pick one series or one game or one matchup in the bubble to show them what was the bubble like, I think you would say Celtics-Raptors, because it was that cool and that special. And that was my number one moment.
That was just an incredible series. That was just front to end. That was the best series of the bubble.
Yeah, no, that's why it was number one for me. I went through Kelsey and I went through multiple lists where I was writing them down like back and forth, but I never wavered on number one. Like number one was unequivocally Celtics-Raptors for me, because it was a culmination of kind of like 2 Eastern Conference foes that had kind of really been at the top of the conference for a while, that had never played each other in the postseason, finally kind of christening a real rivalry in the Celtics and the Raptors, because they've always been good, but that was their first ever playoff series against each other. And I thought it was, you know, it was everything that we wanted and more from playoff basketball.
Yeah. So my number one.
Okay.
The king of the bubble. The real Bubble d'Or winner in our hearts. The most important new discovery in the bubble.
Oh my God.
Bill Rondo, baby. Billy Rondo, the shit-talking king barber of the bubble. Like got into it with Russ.
He will do Russ's braids and then tell him he's trash right after.
Do you think Russ went to Bill Rondo for the braids, or did he go to one of the other barbers? I could see Russ like not being down.
Oh, I definitely bet that Westbrook like paid someone in like the greater Orlando area to like do like a COVID safe like situation or something. I don't know. Like,
well, there were multiple barbers that were in the bubble. Do you think that he just went to one of the other ones besides Bill Rondo?
Yeah, I think he did. I don't.
Okay.
Westbrook is never fucking with anything outside of like the Westbrook family.
Yeah.
So I believe that he didn't want to give Bill Rondo any money. Though, shout out to Russell Westbrook for the tip that he left.
Yeah, that was cool.
The housekeepers at the Grand Floridian, I believe, is where the Rockets were staying, of $8,000. So
also shout out to the anonymous sources that leaked that to whoever leaked it.
The anonymous sources being Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, like,
or Russell Westbrook's agent.
That's a great great scoop that I forget who reported it, but that was a great scoop.
I think you know who reported that.
I don't know who reported it. It wasn't any of the usual suspects. It was like somebody random, right?
I'm pretty sure it was Shams.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, maybe not. Okay. Well, anyway. Yeah, shout out to Russell Westbrook and shout out to William Rondo. A man of taste, a man of luxury, a man of vision.
Bill Rondo subscribed to the Bulls vs. Blazers Patreon challenge.
I think this is the best place to possibly end it. Thank you to the bubble.
Did you see Did you see Rajon Rondo's daughter and him doing TikTok dances together?
Oh yeah, I'm all dude. Rondo to the Blazers confirmed. I'm all over it. Also, I wanted to say I was listening to the Zach Lowe podcast with Frank Vogel, and he told.
Oh yeah, that was good. I listened to that.
It was good. He also told Vogel to have a good summer. So I just want to say H.A.G.S to all my friends out there.
Okay,
the fam H.A.G.S. Shout out
in
to
October.
H.A.G.S in October. Have a good summer.
Right.
I also just want to say H.A.G.S. I feel like that.
I like
H.A.G.S, dude. Like
I like that.
H.A.G.S to the fam. H.A.G.S NBA.
Yeah.
H.A.G.S to Frank Vogel. H.A.G.S to the shout out to my family and H.A.G.S to
shout out to the family. Yeah, you too, man. H.A.G.S to you as well. We're gonna do the Kelsey episode this weekend on the Patreon. So if you are interested in that, go patreon.com/BullsVBlazers, sign up, and
free content.
Find us on Apple, Spotify, Google, anywhere else. We'll be back soon. We'll be back with the Patreon episode this weekend. Thanks for listening.